Hello, welcome to another video! I have decorated for the spooky season. I say spooky, I've more decorated for the autumn season. But there are pumpkins. It's spooky enough, right? I think so. I like it. It feels cozy in here. I'm a fan. I'm feeling very autumnal. I've got I've forgotten the name of this material entirely. I've got this on. I've got my leaves, I've got my pumpkins, and I'm here to talk about some spooky middle grade books. All of the good things rolled into one. So, hi, sup, how you doing? I am a fan of the spooky season. I am a fan of autumn and all of the atmospheric amazingness of it all. However, I am not necessarily a fan of scary books or scary reads. I don't read horror, I don't read thriller, I don't like things that scare me. Not a fan. Sorry. So the closest I get to spooky reads in the spooky season is a spooky middle grade. So I thought, what better way to kick off some spooky videos, I have a few planned, than to go through some of my favourite spooky middle grade books. I use spooky with a pinch of salt here because some of these are more like spoopy, like cute spooky. They just have like little ghosty elements or something. But these are my middle grade recommendations for the spooky season. So, let us begin! I'm gonna start off with some very basic ones that I think everyone will know and everyone will probably have already read. In Neil Gaiman with The Graveyard Book, because is it the spooky season if you haven't got The Graveyard Book to hand? I'm not sure. This one follows a young boy called Bod. His name is Bod because his name is Nobody. He is nobody. And he is raised in the graveyard by ghosts. And you would think that living in a graveyard, being raised by ghosts, would be the most dangerous thing for a child to do. However, it is in the land of the living where the real danger lurks for Bod, as there is a killer on the hunt for him, as he has already murdered all of Bod's family. So, I mean, it is pretty heavy. There is a murderer on the loose, but it is still middle grade, so it's not, like, super spooky. But I love Neil Gaiman's writing. Big fan of Neil Gaiman. Big fan of this book. However, I can imagine a lot of people will have already read it and already be very familiar with it, which is similar for the next one, but I have to mention it, and that is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Again, big fan of Coraline. The weird vibes in this book, it's just very strange. I feel again though that most people will be familiar with Coraline's story. Coraline moves to a new house where she meets the other mother. There's something very peculiar about the house that Coraline has moved into, and there is a little door, and some doors stay locked for a reason, but Coraline's curiosity gets the better of her, and this little door takes her through to some sort of parallel world where there is another mother with buttons for eyes who is desperate to keep Coraline for herself. A lot of people are probably familiar with the movie for this. The movie's pretty great, the book's pretty great, Neil Gaiman is just pretty great. And both of these are perfect for the spooky season if you haven't read them already, but I can imagine most people probably have because they are classics. Next up I have to mention one of my favourites, which is Potkin and Stubbs by Sophie Green. I love Sophie Green, I love this trilogy. Obviously this is just the first book, Potkin and Stubbs. This follows a young girl called Lil Potkin who lives in the corrupt city of Pelican City. And she is desperate to be the next big reporter. And she is at an overnight bus station and doesn't quite realise that her next big scoop is sitting opposite her, introducing Ned Stubbs. Lil and Ned try to root out some of the corruption in the city and in the process turn over some ghostly stones, and there is something haunting about Pelican City as well. I won't say too much more because I think it would be very easy to spoil, but I love this trilogy. Super atmospheric, very like detective noir vibes, kind of Gotham City vibes as well in Pelican City, but fantastic story. And the illustrations as well. Let me just find a single one. Illustrated by Carl James Mountford, of course, but just Vibes, atmosphere, love it. Brilliant spooky middle grade. If you haven't taken up my recommendation of this already, because I've definitely recommended it before, now's your opportunity to do it again. This one should come as no surprise if you know me, because I am trash for Victoria Schwab. City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, set in Edinburgh, following Cassidy Blake, who has one foot in the land of the living and one foot in the land of the dead. She had an experience as a young girl that took her near death, and it has given her the ability to pull back the veil and step into the land of the dead so she can see ghosts. What's interesting about Cassidy's life, though, is that her parents are ghost hunters of some kind, and they are creating a TV show touring some of the world's most haunted places, which is how they end up in Edinburgh. So whilst her family are dragging her around to all of these super haunted places, they don't realise that Cass can actually see, feel and hear the ghosts that are truly there. And Edinburgh ends up being a lot more scary than she first thought. I am trash for Schwab. I really like these books. I'll admit they're not Victoria Schwab's best. I'm a bigger fan of her young adult and adult stuff, but it's a real good spooky middle grade. I like it a lot. I should probably reread these myself, to be honest, but I have to mention them. Next up are a couple, again, I talk about quite a lot and I have spoken about very recently in Small Spaces, Dead Voices and Dark Waters, which is the third one in this series, by Catherine Arden. I nearly smacked myself in the face. I did smack myself in the face. Yeah, these are Catherine Arden's middle grade books following Ollie, Coco and Brian, who find themselves in spooky situations. In the first one, they are going on a school trip to a farm and the Smiling Man is after them and they get trapped in the Smiling Man's web and they have to work out how to get away from him or be stuck with the scarecrows forever. And in Dead Voices, there is a ski resort and there are ghostly happenings, eerie voices and all sorts going on there as well. This one spooked me out a lot more than this one did, but it's because I am a lot more scared, I think, of the eerie voices and the ghostliness and the mysterious figures than I am of scarecrows, but whatever you're more scared of will probably scare you more. But so atmospheric. Catherine Arden is an incredible writer. I love her adult stuff. The way she can weave an atmosphere is amazing. And these spooked me out. Another couple that spooked me out and I think are super underrated is Evelyn Jones. So we've got The Haunting of Evelyn Jones and The Bewitching of Evelyn Jones. The Haunting is the first one, and this one spooked me out quite a bit. Again, it's the ghostliness. Ghosty things, eerie figures, voices, things like that just seem to spook me out. Not that I believe in any of it, but ooh, it freaked me out. So in this one, Evelyn Jones discovers a mysterious book of ghost stories. Evelyn is obsessed with all things ghosty and spooky. She loves reading scary stories and like finding out the truth in them and so on. And she finds a book of spooky stories that used to belong to a girl called Primrose. And then she finds out that Primrose went missing many years ago. And Evelyn decides that she is going to investigate what happened to Primrose, and in doing so she stirs up trouble and now something or someone is looking for Evelyn. Very ghosty, very atmospheric, spooky, loved it. And then we have The Bewitching, which is, again, Evelyn goes somewhere, sticks her nose in some ghosty business, gets in trouble. She goes on holiday to a little cottage and unearths something witchy, and there's like the witch's stone circle out the back of her cottage and she is drawn to it and wants to know all about the witchy history of this village and of course stirs up trouble. But these are so good, definitely underrated for spooky middle grades. This one freaked me out a whole lot more than this one did, but again it's because I am scared of the ghostliness, not so much the witchiness, but perfect for the spooky season. Completely recommend. I can't wait for the next one of these, which is The Vanishing of Evelyn Jones. I don't know when that's coming out. It must be soon. I need to find out because I really like these a lot. And I don't think I said, but they're by Phil Hicks, so check them out. Next up, I have A Place Called Perfect by Helena Duggan. I haven't spoken about this book in quite a long time actually, but this is the first book of the Perfect trilogy. So we've got A Place Called Perfect, The Trouble with Perfect, and then The Battle for Perfect. And this follows a young girl called Violet who moves to a new town with her family called Perfect. Something is not right about Perfect, and as the tagline says on the front, they've got their eyes on you. Everyone in Perfect wears these bizarre glasses. Why? What do they do? What's that all about? Something dodgy is happening in Perfect. The weirdness continues for Violet when her mum starts acting incredibly strange and her dad goes missing. And she then meets a strange character called Boy. Where did Boy come from? Boy exposes to her that her dad is not the only person who has gone missing from Perfect, and there is a lot more weirdness lurking under the surface, and the Watchers are watching the city and quite literally have their eyes on you. I really enjoyed this trilogy. When I first read this, it reminded me a lot of Coraline, but having read the whole trilogy now, like, it goes on a journey and it just gets weirder and wilder, and I absolutely love it. So I do recommend this one for all of those weird, spooky vibes. Not quite ghostly or anything like that. Nothing supernatural so much in this one. It's just the weird vibes and the essentially being trapped in this perfect location that has this, like, image of everyone being brilliant and perfect and everything's so well behaved and in its place, and there is something very not right under the surface. But yeah, I love this trilogy and I don't recommend it enough, so there you go. Also, I painted the edges of it myself. Didn't I get that colour match, like, perfect? I think so. Next up, I have The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane by Julia Noble, and this is what I would call dark academia in a middle grade. I'm not really into dark academia, I don't really get it necessarily, but what I think dark academia is, in a middle grade. This follows a young girl called Emmeline who has been sent to, I forget the name of the school, Wellsworth. She's been sent to Wellsworth boarding school. Her father went missing a long time ago, her mother is always so busy with work, so she's been sent to Wellsworth boarding school. Again, there are weird happenings going on, and Emmeline finds some symbols that link to her father in some way, and she knows that Wellsworth is somehow connected to the disappearance of her father. With the help of her new friends made at this boarding school, she discovers that there is a secret society at Wellsworth, which is the Order of Black Hollow Lane, and she just knows that Black Hollow Lane has some dark secrets that her dad was definitely involved in, and she wants to get to the bottom of it. Weird vibes, again, secrets, dark secret society, all of that good stuff. This one was a super quick read and holds a special place in my heart because it's actually set where I was born. I am familiar with some of the locations in this because it's set where I was born, which was pretty cool. But I really like this and its sequel, which is here, The Secret of Whitestone Gate as well. Both very good, thoroughly enjoyed, really quick reads and perfect for this time of year. And then finally, kind of an honourable mention here, I have Amelia Fang. I've only read the first two books in the Amelia Fang series, and this one is the first one, Amelia Fang and the Barbaric Ball. This is a much younger middle grade, and it isn't spooky. It's cute, but our main character, Amelia Fang, is a vampire. She is friends with a yeti and a ghoul type thing. There's all supernatural creatures, but it is definitely a cuter read, and follows Amelia Fang, whose parents are throwing a barbaric ball for all the ghoulish creatures in the night realm. Amelia has a pet pumpkin called Squashy, and in this one, Squashy is kidnapped, so she must perform a daring rescue to rescue her adorable little squishy pumpkin friend. Kind of an honourable mention, as I say, because it's not, like, spooky, it's definitely more cute, but it is perfect for the Halloween season because it's set in Nocturnia, which is the night realm with vampires and monsters and all of those things. But they're not scary. They actually end up being terrified of fairies and unicorns. So, good fun. I liked it. I need to continue, really, but there we go. Anyway, there are some of my favourite spooky middle grades. I hope you have been able to take something from this, maybe find a new spooky middle grade to give a go yourself. If you have any spooky middle grade recommendations for me, please do let me know, because I definitely need more. When I was curating this list, I realised there aren't actually, like, a ton I could recommend, which is why some of these I've spoken about quite often. So if you do have any recommendations, please drop them down below. But yeah, thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, give us a thumbs up, chat to me down below, all that good stuff. If you aren't subscribed and fancy subscribing, I would be eternally grateful for that. But with all that being said, I shall see you in whatever comes next.